Vedant Dhyan Darshan Prayog, that is the Vedant Dhyan Darshan science, is that ancient technique of meditation. It is that powerful technique of meditation. That is the basic source of soul empowerment, because it is watching, it is coming in contact with, and which is getting the glimpse of that supreme consciousness, that Lord, that Almighty, without making the use of one and two of the five senses, that is your eyes and that is your ears. You are not watching anything. It is not about visualization also. You are not hearing anything. You are not even uttering any dhwani, that is the sound, that is the application of sound meditation. It is that powerful meditation tool that when applied according to the given science explained in the yogic technique, this is that powerful yogic technique when applied step by step, you will empower your inner senses, your intuitive ability to get in sync with that supreme consciousness and to reach that Param Atma, that is that supreme consciousness, the unity and the unifying of that supreme consciousness with our single consciousness. Because at the end of the day, it is that supreme consciousness that gets brought existence into power, and it has spread in the existence in form of animal kingdom, in the form of plant kingdom, in the form of different species, living, non-living organisms, the living organisms, the non-living things. The entity that is controlling it all is that supreme consciousness. And when our individual consciousness merges with that supreme consciousness, the process of that merging is the Vedant Dhyan Darshan technique. What are the Ved Shastra? The Ved Shastra are those ancient scriptures at the end of which comes the Upanishads. Now Upanishads have been called Vedant. Vedant means what comes at the end of the Vedas, and that is the Upanishad. Now you have to understand this technique very carefully, because only a clear understanding and a synchronized and organized practice of this technique will give you a proper result. If we do it without a presence of mind, and if we do it casually as if we are going to a park and sitting for Padmasana or a meditation, no, it is not as simple. It is quite simple because our Yog Muni and Rishi Munis have explained and simplified it, but it is very complex and it has a lot of science and detailed analysis and introspection involved, which a sadhak, a spiritual seeker, has to do in order to gain accurate results. And that accuracy can be attained if you do it organizedly, and if you do it in a way that involves step-by-step performance, step-by-step analysis, step-by-step introspection, and step-by-step implementation of the gyan, that wisdom, that knowledge that you've accumulated. Okay, now explaining each of the steps involved. Three basic principles involved in the Vedant Dhyan Darshan technique. Firstly, we have to know what is darshan. Darshan is Sanskrit. In literal Hindi meaning of darshan is watching something. You get the darshan of a particular guru, get the darshan of a particular Rishi Muni, get the darshan of a particular God. That is means you are being able to have a look at that particular entity, and you are able to watch that particular entity from your eyes. That is the literal meaning of darshan. But the darshan philosophy according to the Upanishads, that is the ancient scriptures, that is the ancient verses, the ancient wisdom, the knowledge, the yogic science, defines darshan as that means, that medium to gain the access of that supreme consciousness, that is the access to the Param Atma. Access through what? Access through not the senses of the eyes or the ears or the mouth, by the access of your inner intuitive power. That is soulful meditation. So you are empowering your soul, and you are using the eyes of your soul, that is the inner eyes, that is the sensing power of your soul, and you are being able to watch that supreme entity. You are being able to watch that great supreme power, that Almighty, that Creator. Clearly you are being able to watch and have a look at that supreme consciousness, get the feel of the supreme consciousness, not with your eyes but from your soul. That is the first technique, that is soul meditation. Now second technique of this Vedant Dhyan Darshan is by Tark. Tark in Sanskrit, it is the analysis, into the introspection, it is the argument that you are having with the self, when you are again and again giving your brain that food of the Vedas to think, and to think on that wisdom, to put in your mind and the brain cells, application of the brain cells, of continuous thinking of it, analyzing of it, and arguing with yourself, thinking on yourself that okay, how this is happening, how it is implementing in my life, how true is that, and how it is applicable in my day-to-day life. this analyzing process, this brainstorming, this watching over the activities that you're doing, this is the Tark philosophy, and this is the third technique. This is a part of the Vedant Dhyan Darshan philosophy. That is Tark. Now thirdly, it comes the Gyan. Gyan is the wisdom. Now you are substituting, replacing your eyes with the wisdom. Now you are being able to watch that supreme consciousness, connect to that supreme consciousness, that Param Atma, that Param Shakti, that Lord, that Almighty, through the knowledge, through the wisdom. So these are the three techniques. When implied and applied willfully, when implied and applied in an organized manner, you will see the result for yourselves, because you are replacing your senses. That is the five senses: ears, the nose which you're smelling, the mouth which we are speaking, the five senses. In a way, we are substituting our eyes that we used to watch and ears that we used to hear. We are replacing these senses, we are substituting these three techniques. That is the Gyan, the Tark, and the Antar Atma, that is the soul. So these are the tools that you are substituting with your senses, and this is leading to the empowerment of the soul and the intuitive power. This is about the Vedant Dhyan Darshan. This philosophy tells that the Upanishads, that is called the Vedant. Vedant is what the literal meaning is, what comes at the end of the Vedas, that is the Upanishads. So certain philosophies emerged from these Upanishads, and Adi Shankaracharya ji, Madhavacharya ji, this ancient Yog Munis, they defined it further, they introspected, they thought on it, and they simplified it further, and they thought on it and defined and elaborated more and more on these philosophies, and gave us more and more spiritual philosophies to think on, to work on, so that we spiritual seekers can make the use of it and make the best of it in our meditation practices and achieve that heights, that is the Ucha Avastha. Now, how do we do it? By implying these three practices. Now, why is it necessary to understand the techniques and the detailed analysis and the thin lines that is between the Upanishads and the Upanishad philosophies? Upanishads come at the end of the Vedas. That is why Vedanta. Vedanta means what comes at the end of the Vedas, and that is the Upanishads. Now there is a difference between Upanishads and basic philosophies and thoughts that emerge out of the basic principles of that Upanishads. Am I being able to explain it clearly? There is a thin difference between Upanishads and the basic thoughts that emerged out of those principles of that Upanishads, which was made the base by the Yog Munis, and the Yog Munis and Rishis, they thought more and more. They analyzed more and more and elaborated those principles, those basic principles of the Upanishads, and more thoughts, more and more philosophies came up and emerged. Those emerged, those improvised, and those well analyzed theories and philosophies are also called Vedas in Vedanta in today's times. Those philosophies are also called Vedanta with coming time. So Upanishads are also called Vedanta, and the Vedanta is the same term that is being used from the well-versed and the well-thought of, well-analyzed theories and philosophies emerging out of those principles of Upanishads. Now, why it is important for a sadhak and a spiritual seeker for so much intricate detailed analysis and even like work on those mini details? Because when you put this into practice, when the spiritual seeker put this into practice, you do the Ved part. That is exactly how you conduct your meditation practice. You take a sankalp, that is, you are taking an oath. That is the first step. You take an oath and fix your duration time. Whether you take the help of any spiritual teacher and spiritual coach or do it yourself, that depends on your past experience, that depends on your caliber. If you feel that your mind is capable enough, that make your mind your spiritual teacher, make your mind that spiritual coach, and do under the guidance of your coach. That is your mind. Alright, now take a sankalp, take the oath that for these many hours, for these many days I am going to do it, for these many months I am going to do it. For example, you are taking an oath of 3 months Vedant Dhyan Darshan meditation practice. So what will you do? You have taken an oath. Now your conscious mind has sent the right message to the subconscious mind, and the subconscious is getting mentally prepared and mentally preparing you, that is a spiritual seeker, to do this practice and to follow the discipline of the Vedanta Dhyan Darshan practice for the next 3 months. Now, after taking the sankalpa, you fix up your discipline and your time of conducting Ved Shastra Patha, that is reading those verses of the Ved Shastra. When you do the reading, that has direct connection with the meditation practice which you will do, because just after the reading, the meditation practice which you are going to do, you have taken the wisdom, that knowledge within, and when you sit for your meditation practice, the spiritual seeker, when he will close his eyes and we will go into deep meditation, he will observe and he will find that your thoughts will get replaced by that wisdom, that knowledge of the Ved Shastra that you have read, that you have gradually get in sync with. You have to do it in an organized way. If you just flip the pages and do a mechanical reading, that will be of no use. It will only remain a robotic action. Whereas when you do detailed organized study of the Ved Shastra, even if you read 1 line a day, 1 paragraph a day, 1 word a day, not a problem. But whatever you're reading, introspect it, analyze it, think more and more about it, because that is what the ancient gurus did, and that is what they have signaled, that is what they have guided us, that when you do, you have to get the sync of it, you have to completely merge with that knowledge, you have to give a detailed thinking to that knowledge. Only then it will convert into your wisdom, and when you will sit for the meditation practice, it will replace any thoughts that is coming in your mind. For instance, it's not about negative or positive thoughts, it's not even about negative or positive energy, it's not about any bad memory coming to your mind when you're sitting for a meditation practice. For instance, you are doing your meditation practice and suddenly you remembered some office work that you've left incomplete, that okay, I had to do that but I didn't complete that file. If the thought comes, immediately that wisdom that you have accumulated from the Ved Shastra, that will replace it. That has that power to replace it, and you will not have to make, your conscious mind will not have to make any extra effort to bring back your mind gently. This Ved Shastra wisdom, the knowledge that you have accumulated, that will gently bring back your mind, and it will replace any thought coming in your mind, positive or negative. That is Ved Shastra Darshan philosophy. This is the Vedanta Darshan Dhyan, that is the Vedanta Darshan meditation Darshan philosophy, that is reaching that supreme consciousness, getting the wisdom and the knowledge of that supreme consciousness, connecting with the cosmic intelligence about which we are aware consciously, we are aware from our subconscious also, but it's the training that we miss out on. Once the training is given to the subconscious, then it is the proven science that has enabled the spiritual seeker to reach the heights of meditation, to heights of leading a life that's blissful, that is an intelligent life, that is a life full of knowledge, that is a life full of wisdom and no dependency. Bread 41 days of life-changing course, life-changing experience, no dependency, what the slavery bred.